Let's break the mold and stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. Welcome to Stanley on 7. We're here until it's here.
And welcome back. This is Stanley on 7th. And, well, I'm trying to have my best cycle. Let's start over.
Or maybe not. Maybe that's the perfect way.
The best. I'm trying to get my best psychology voice down, like calm me down, put you on the leather couch, Doc Alley. You got a couple questions. Feel comfortable. This is a safe space. Ask them. You won't be judged. But Stanley on 7th, here we are. I tell you what, it's okay to say this. You know what? If it's okay to say that winning is the new standard, that you want it, you can go get it. It's okay to say that it hurts to fail and that there's disappointment. I don't know about you, man. I was pretty surprised. It was kind of disbelief when it was all over. And you know, the team was magical throughout the year. They did a lot of great things. The comebacks, 9 multi-goal comeback wins, third period. The fact that they were able to overcome deficits and tie games and steal points, and franchise record with 50 plus wins, 113 points. You've got your all-star. Like, so much was going well for the Minnesota Wild that you just sat there for that playoff series and said, all right, so when's it going to come? When are they going to turn it on? When's it going to come? And you kept waiting. And sadly, it didn't come. I believed it was going to come all the way right down to the end. It didn't. I don't think that, and I'm not saying that the effort wasn't there, but yeah, it was dissatisfying, and I think everybody in that locker room, you know, we waited because the team was magical in some sense, and no, they weren't turning water into wine, but you know, it's like, hey, they lose on Thursday. Let's give them, and this is why we're recording on Monday. Give them 3 days, see if they raise from the dead. Is this really over? Because it doesn't feel like it should be. Easter came and went, and they didn't resurrect themselves. So here we are Monday. They're cleaning out the locker stalls, and I don't know, man. Kevin Fiala said it feels empty. I don't know. How are you feeling, Kinger?
Well, the rock in front of the tomb is still there. They did not rise again. You know when you can turn off your computer, or you can sleep your computer, or you can just slam the top of the laptop down? Mm-hmm. I kind of slammed the top of the laptop down after that game. Like, once it was over, I did watch the handshake line because I wanted to see what everybody looked like in the handshake line. Isn't that messed up? Like, does somebody look a little too happy or not upset enough? So I watched that. And then I just turned it off, and I've kind of boxed it out until now. So
we're opening a vein here today. I do think it's okay to watch the handshake line, and you can look at just the players of the Wild, I think, and try to analyze what's going on through their head. I think everybody processes things different. I didn't watch that handshake line closely. I had things I had to do after the broadcast, so I didn't watch much of it, at least under the microscope. I did watch the Rangers-Pittsburgh one because I think you can learn a lot.
You can learn a lot. Like, yeah, what does it look like when Crosby goes to Trouba?
And they missed that one. That's when I was rattled at.
They didn't even have it.
How do you guys miss that? The only handshake you want to see of the whole thing is Trouba and Crosby.
Yeah,
and they missed it.
And you could see it out of the corner of one of the shots, but you're right, they missed it. But I wanted to see Kirill. I like seeing, you know, when they're pulling some vet is pulling you in tight and talking in your ear. It's kind of like when the two quarterbacks run out onto the field after an NFL game, and it might be Justin Herbert and Brady, and you're kind of wondering what they're telling each other. But it was really tough. The thing I want to ask you is, how far away are we? Because when I'm watching the series, as a fan, what you end up feeling like, you know, when there's a romantic comedy and a couple has fallen in love, but there's a lie at the beginning of the relationship. Mm-hmm. So maybe when they first met, the guy said he was somebody who he wasn't. They have this torrid love affair, and eventually they find out who he really is, and everything before that is kind of null and void, and maybe they get back together, maybe they don't. That's kind of when the playoffs come. It's sort of like, if it doesn't work in the playoffs, you almost are so upset.
Yeah.
So all those good things you listed off, they almost become 5 years with a girlfriend he didn't marry.
Right.
And I just couldn't help but watch the series and go, man, Carell grades out as an A, just a stud. After that, who are our playoff guys? There's guys and there's playoff guys. I really felt like we were a long ways away after watching the series.
I do too. I don't think we were that far off. I do think that the Wild ran into an opponent that, boy, they not only matched up well, but in all areas not off the ice, they matched up well too. Berube was a good coach. He's a good motivator. He knew how to get them going. He played their goaltender situation well. Like, they did everything they needed to stay alive and to stay relevant. And boy, they were coached and managed really well. And I'm not throwing shade on Dean, but it's just throughout the series, if you look at it, like, the Wild aren't that far off. They just didn't. And I'm not going to say they didn't catch a break.
So you're saying we're not far off?
No. And I'll continue my point on that. And I don't fully know. But the Wild ran into a tough opponent. And it's not cool to make the excuses and to say all of this stuff. And the Wild were the number 2 team in the West. And they had to play the number 3 team in the West. And that sucks too. And man, we should have been able to play Nashville or Dallas or somebody like that. And the fate would have been different. You do have to beat the best to be the best. The Wild were healthy going into that series, so I really don't think you should have any excuses. My thought on that is, I look at the regular season, and this should actually be the title of the episode. It's, you shouldn't overreact or underreact to any playoff series, because you can set your franchise off to a dangerous trajectory if you start to do that. If you overreact to one series, to one set of 5 or 6 games, you can really make some big mistakes in a real big hurry. Now, with that said, I look at what the Wild did during the regular season, and you can't help but analyze, when you don't have playoff success, what went wrong or why didn't it work. And for me, I look at all of the guys that had career years for the Wild, and it's not just the guys up front. So obviously Kirill Kaprizov, Ryan Hartman, Matt Zuccarello, Boldy obviously had a career year, but he was a rookie. Freddie Gaudreau had a career year. Kevin Fiala had a career year. You continue down. Joel Eriksson-Ek had a great one. Marcus Foligno, another solid one. The fourth line guys, I don't know that they had a huge opportunity to make a big impact in the series, so they kind of get a pass from me. Then you go down, and the 5-6 D-men, John Merrill, Dmitry Kulikov, career years. So you have all of these guys that played above the mean, and they brought certain things that they didn't bring in the past, and that helped the Wild get to 113 points and franchise best season. But it comes time in the playoffs to elevate your game. Were they playing at their ceiling the first 82? So when you have to adjust, you have to be better, you have to find another level. Maybe they were pretty well coached, and Evason had them playing at their best, their peak for 82. And then all of a sudden you get into the playoffs and there's no place else to go up. I do think that that's a possibility, and something that coaches, management, they're going to have to look at and see, this group was fantastic, but did we squeeze everything out of them that we could have? And is that why we couldn't get to a new level against St. Louis? Is that why, when our backs were against the wall in 5 and 6, even game 4, when we have the Blues absolutely on the ropes, that we couldn't find it? We couldn't get on top of them. We couldn't figure out a way. And for me, I think that's some of it. So you look at where are the playoff guys? They showed up the first 82, and they were great. Their playoff hockey was from game 1 to the final game of the regular season. And when it came to turn it up a notch, I just don't know how many more notches some of these guys had. And I'm not throwing shade on them. Fantastic players, great years. But that's the criticism that you get when you don't turn it on when it matters most.
Yeah, it was. We owe it to our listeners to unpack specifically Game 6. So here's what everyone would be saying. So you have this amazing moment where they go to Talbot in Game 6, and it's amazing. It's crazy, because it's either going to go one or two ways, and no matter how he plays, you immediately hear the time to start your other goalie is Game 5, right? Not Game 6, right? And then the Kulikov deal, just a tough couple sequences for him. Then you're behind, and you can't get back. You wish you had Goose, because you're chasing the game now. You're down a couple goals, and it was so tough, those changes at the end, and everyone's micro analyzing that. And I'm just curious, this was a game of kind of rock, paper, scissors. I think the closest we were to winning the series was down 2-3 in game 4. I could just feel it. I could feel them on the ropes. It was like you said, if maybe somebody gets in a fight, get that tying goal. I felt like they were about to wave the white flag. We didn't get it, like you said, and then it kind of got worse from there.
Oh, the 100%. So the Wild have them. I think the turning point of the series when the Blues won it was game 4.
Yep.
They lose Torrey Krug. They're mentally beat because they lose Scandella. They lose Leddy. They lose Krug. All they have on the back end legitimately to survive 55 minutes in game 4 is Parayko, Falk, and Mikkola.
It was happening.
And they do. Those guys played 31 minutes, and the Wild just were not hard enough on them. It was, you have blood in the water, finish them.
You could in my basement, I could smell the blood.
Right.
It was like being at a Bellator match. Like I was like, this is it right now.
You've won 2 in a row.
If we can step on their throat right now, it's going to happen. And you're right. It didn't happen. We let them off the curb.
And what happens game 5? They start to get they get bodies back, and Bortuzzo and Leddy, and all of a sudden they're starting to feel good. They're like, man, we survived. We made it. Like, we stole the game. And that would have changed everything. The Wild had won 2 in a row. So the Blues win 1, Wild win 2, Wild win 3, Blues come back, they win 4. It's 3-1 at that point. If the Wild can close that 1-out series, is all but over. And Blues are like waving the flag, as you mentioned. Instead, wow, we got a series and we survived, and there's guys coming back, and Binnington's playing good, and we got a chance. And then they come in and they win 5, and obviously we know what happened in 6. So 100% it was game 4, and was 5 then the point? And maybe that's the miss, is the recognition is, when do you need the shot in the arm? Was it after game 4 when I think everybody in that room left that day feeling like, son of a bitch, we should have had that one. Like, this one's going to hurt. And then was it 5 that they need the shot, 5 that they need the goaltender, 5 they need a roster change? I think another thing that bit the Wild was their stability. And the success that they had the first 82 made it very challenging. And we go back to one of the last podcasts, and I was saying, you got to rotate these centers, man. You got to change something, because what they're doing is not working offensively. You need different looks. And I know it worked when it worked, but you need a shot in the arm, and you have to be desperate. Craig Berube did it. And that, I think for a while, that's what it's going to be. The Blues did it. The Wild didn't. The Blues switched the goaltenders. They switched their lines. They moved pieces around. They were, and they didn't portray panic. It was, we're on edge. And we understand that we can't just go out and try the same old experiment and expect a different result. We're going to be on the front edge of this, and we're going to try stuff, and we're going to lose. We're going to try. And that's what ended up happening. The Wild they didn't change their lines. They didn't commit to the long game. At times they had success. They were unwilling to play a certain way, and it cost them in the end. I think we can go back to the 2 goaltenders too. And this is one of the worst spots to be in, but I told you so. You have 2 goaltenders, you really don't have one. It screws you. And the Wild fell into the same trap that Vegas did against the Wild last year.
I can relate to this when I'm a fantasy hockey owner, and it really sucks to have 2 good goalies. Yeah. It does, because it's like every week you never have any joy.
Right.
I would rather have one goalie, and half the time, 3/4 of the time he's good, 1/4 of the time he's awful, than have 2 and miss the wave. You're just, right. Dang it. Oh, it should have been game 5. It was game 6. I think you're absolutely right. I want to get into where we're at with you, because you watch a lot more hockey. You're an analyst. You played. I was really discouraged. I know you said the episode title is "Don't Overreact or Underreact to any playoff series," but I'm watching this thing, and all I could think of is it wasn't even like it reminded me of Kirill's original text when he came and he's like, I don't want to play with the shit players or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't even like Kirill stepped forward. it was like the entire team stepped backwards
Mm-hmm.
and just Kirill was standing there. And I'm like watching this. And so I'm going to be a little bit down here and I'm going to be dire. And I want to tell you if any of this is accurate. Okay. So Kirill's a stud. Defensively, our D-core is in much worse shape than I thought. I think Brodin is a stud, but he might be like a Hjalmarsson in the heyday of the Blackhawks, an unbelievable second pair D.
Mm-hmm.
Middleton's big and strong, built for the playoffs. He's a top 6 D, but he's not up top. We don't have the new school Makar type superstar Hedman D. So maybe we got a couple D. A lot of the guys that performed all season didn't really perform in the playoffs. I think the grief line is a thing for sure. They had some ups and downs, but arguably the fourth line might have been the best line in Game 6 with Dewar, and I mean that was frightening. So Boldy's a nice player. I'm like, holy shit, how far away are we? Is this like when Vancouver overachieved 2 years ago on the bubble and then they wound it back? I'm concerned.
Yeah, or Dallas.
Tell me it's going to be okay.
Or Dallas even.
Exactly. I'm like,
when they made it to the final.
How bad?
Or Montreal last year where they were in the final and then worst in the NHL this year. No, that's not the Wild, but how bad are they, or how bad is
how
this?
far are we from being a team that can take punches in the playoffs, has the mentality to win those series, and is the type of team that can set a nervous fan base at ease?
I think the Wild the way that they've started to play has changed. But it's intriguing to look around the NHL and learn from other clubs. The Wild, they won a lot of games on their D-core and keeping it tight for a while. And they didn't have that. I mean, you look at the scores of this Blues series, it seemed like it was a close series. It wasn't. Every single game was decided by 3+ goals. So, I mean, at no point was there a 1-1 game, 2-1 game, even a tie game going like into late into the third period. They were all decided. Now, there were empty net goals in, I think, 5 of the 6 games to make it 3 goals, but it wasn't that close of a series. And the Wild, as much as it was, where's everybody helping Kirill? Where's everybody helping the goaltender or helping the D or helping them keep the puck out of the net? Every loss, they gave up 5 goals, 4, 5, 6 goals. So, I mean, where is that D-core the way the Wild used to play to be able to shut down? It's a different D set back there. It's not Jared Spurgeon, Ryan Suter, Jonas Brodin, young Matt Dumba, and then, Ian Cole, Carson Soucy, plus 25 on the year kind of thing. The frustrating part is that's how it was during the regular season. Dmitry Kulikov, plus 23, John Merrill, plus 15.
Goose.
Yeah, plus 41.
Plus $1 million. You
go into the playoffs, and John Merrill ended, and I don't have what with Game 6. I haven't looked at the stats after the compilation there, but he was -5 through the first 5 games. Kulikov was -4 through his 2 games. These guys that were plus players and could defend well didn't in the playoffs. Now, do they have to change their style? Is some of that experience? You can get into all of that stuff, and I don't really know the answer. That's where you have to be careful not to overreact or underreact. I think that the Wild D-core, if they could find a way to tighten it up and give up 1 less goal, that makes a huge difference. And it's a give-take. Look at the goal, and everybody and rightfully so, can give it to Kulikov on the Bozak goal in Game 6, where John Merrill decides to pinch on a play where Kulikov was up in the rush. He threw a soft puck up the wall. They turn it over. Merrill pinches, and then it's Matt Zuccarello taking a one-on-one versus
skating backwards for the first time since his charity game.
Toropchenko, yeah. And John Merrill's tracking his guy back.
Oh my God.
Tracking his guy back, and Kulikov takes the wrong route. He just goes to the outside instead of the inside, and Bozak goes and gets it. But both Wild D were in the play offensively, which is the system. It's the way they want to play. You have to live with what happens on the backside of that, if that's the case. And that's what the Wild have to live with. We want these guys up in the play, and it cost us. The Blues, in Game 1, I should say, and game 2 probably early on, they tried to get the D going. Game 3 specifically, they did. They had their D involved. They're like, we're going to score. We're horny at home. We're winning this one. And the Wild were 2-on-1, 3-on-2, everything against, and they scored. So when you have your D offensively driving for you, you're going to give some stuff up on the back end. The Wild did that, and it cost them. Now, they were better at it and recognized, and guys cover for them. But it's different when every play matters that much and every guy's going to the net hard. And Torpchenko sees that Zuccarello drops his shoulder, takes it to the net. Bozak comes in, cleans up the mess. Nobody there. Like, that's the difference in playoff hockey. And that's why you have to say, hey, I'm just going to be careful. I'm not going to pinch there. You want to come at me? That's cool. But I'm playing D if you're John Merrill, right? But these are the decisions that were made the first 82, and I think that they played that way through the end. It just cost them. So how far are they? I think that I think they can figure it out. I think it's just a matter of being a little bit smarter and not taking as much risk at certain times. They got burnt, no question about it. And we'll see coming out of this what the blue line looks like, because the cap troubles, they're here. They're not coming anymore. They're here.
So I'd be curious if you're Billy. I think, he changed the culture. So it's like for the first time, the state of hockey acknowledged that we're playing for the Stanley Cup, right? And I even though we didn't win the first round, I love that, it's about winning, because it still is. It doesn't matter if we didn't do it. That's what it's about. We're here to win that silver trophy. So that shift has been made. I wonder how dramatic he's going to be in the offseason. He's got all this dead cap coming. It wouldn't surprise me if, based on his behavior to date, if he really gives this team a makeover. Moves a lot of pieces. Gets younger, gets draft picks, builds around, a very specific core group of players, and moves a lot of pieces. I think he's going to move a lot. I think it's going to be a really different looking team.
Yeah, I think that's possible. And I'll give a couple of examples of what I think you're talking about. I think you have to look at the Wild's opponent too. And I know the title is Don't Overreact or Underreact to any playoff series. But if you're looking at the Blues and the way they played and everything that they did, that's the kind of team that you're going to have to beat to win a Stanley Cup. That looked like a tight, legit playoff style team, didn't it?
Oh God, Kyrou, Thomas.
They had the veteran line that was phenomenal.
I couldn't hate Ryan O'Reilly because the guy is absolutely everything a hockey player should be. Those 2D that our boy Jansen told us to kill, guess what?
They won the series for him.
They're freaking immortal. You can't kill them.
Well, no, we hit them.
Cannot. Well, maybe we didn't hit them, but they're alive and well and going to the second round. You got a prick with Braden Shen.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. Now, what's really going to be terrifying is if Colorado dismantles them like a plate of wings at B-dubs. If all that's left on the plate after 4 games is a bunch of bones from St. Louis,
right,
I am going to shit my pants, because we're like 10 years away from being a stud team.
Right.
I hope that doesn't happen.
So let's go. And I think the exercise that you're thinking of, when Bill Guerin says he's changed the culture, and you look at, and the point I'm trying to make, you look at the Blues and say that's a team that you have to be able to beat to win a Stanley Cup.
Correct.
Which I think is true. Then you're going to look at it and you look at the guys that perform and underperform, and you look at them and say, are they capable of being good, productive players in that environment? And I think the answer to some of those questions might be no.
Because they're
great players.
I love
great guys, great players.
The curve. What was the line in Curver's tribute? There's 2 types of hockey players: the ones that have won the Stanley Cup, like Ryan Carter, and ones that have not. And it's just a different animal. So if I'm Billy and I look at this playoff series against the Blues, and I'm not overreacting or underreacting, I probably am. Kirill, put that action figure over here. I'm taking the whole grief line. I'm taking them too. I thought Greenway was good in Game 6. Mm-hmm. I thought X, a Warrior, he got kind of jacked up. I think Marcus, I don't believe was 100%, but I don't know if that's come out yet or not. But so I put them over there. I put Boldy over there. I probably put something over there to make sure Kirill's happy. It might be Zuki. And I don't know, man. I put Brodin over there. But I don't know that he's a top 2D, but he's over there. And then from there, let's go trade some baseball cards in the basement. I don't know. I would, Rossi coming up. I'm not, if I had to, we're playing big boy playoff hockey. Who's in your foxhole? That there's not as many people in the foxhole as there were at the end of the regular season.
Right. Management's handcuffed with some of those in contracts and movement clauses and certain things. So they will be handcuffed. But I think your untouchables are pretty close to the untouchables. And you threw Zuccarello in there. I don't know based on his contract stuff or the way that they look at it. Like he has chemistry with Kirill.
I just don't want Kirill to be.
Did you notice it in the playoffs?
No. Not in the playoffs.
Yeah, I didn't either, and that has to come through.
They still do make these passes from like the other end of the ice, and then the second line, somehow he's there. The camera's not even there.
Right.
So there was some of that in the playoffs, but when it was playoff hockey and Zook was getting bodied, he was on the ice a lot more than in the regular season. He was getting knocked down a lot more.
And you can't win those battles on the wall. That's the point I made with Ecker. You need these guys to help. You need to win these battles on the wall and get the puck to the middle of the ice to a guy that can finish. Kirill was the only one that was finishing.
And you can't knock him down either. That's the X factor on 97 is he's tough as hell. But that's where I was like, man, let's be positive. This podcast is not meant to send people out over the ledge, okay? We changed the
It's okay every once in a while.
We changed the culture. Fundamentally, Bill Guerin changed the culture. We speak about the Stanley Cup in the state of hockey. It's not just kids selling programs.
And the disappointment is because people believed.
Yes. And we got people to go ass over kettle for this hockey team, and it feels like more of the same. But the difference is the Stanley Cup's in the room with us now. We are staring at it and understanding that we didn't win it. This season, at its best, was the team that loses in the playoffs and stays on the bench to watch the other team celebrate.
Right.
We at least did that. And now I just go, I think the league is super young. I think when I was young, I remember the peak age for hockey players was 25 to 30. I think that's changed to 20 to 25.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. I would move some people, get young, get draft picks, build around Kirill, and go.
Yeah, that's why it's so hard. Like getting young seems like a good idea. Then you look at the Blues. The team that beat you was O'Reilly, Perron, and Braden Shen, three dusty old farts that just took you to the woodshed.
I know. And it's like beer league hockey guys that just kick the shit out of us.
So that to be negative for a little bit longer, or just to see or to illustrate why I think the Wild didn't have success. I think, and these 2 points they're correlated. The Wild at the deadline, what'd they go out and do?
They did a lot.
But they got bigger and they got meaner.
And we were not big and mean in the playoffs.
They abandoned it. They did. And they were unwilling to stick to the long game and to understand the value in it.
So what happens so this was a direct response to game 1, parade to the penalty box.
Exactly.
What do you think happens? Because I kind of know your philosophy. What if we just stayed bloody?
I think that's
what if we just said, fuck it,
That's
man?
the ticket.
You think it would have been better?
That's the ticket. And I believe that was the Wild. That's the Wild identity. And you have to play to your identity. What happened in this series was there's 2 styles of hockey. There's the Blues style and the Wild style. And the Blues with their power play, forced the Wild to have to play Blues hockey. And the Wild were nowhere near as good at playing Blues hockey as the Blues were. They couldn't. They had the physical dominance, the size, everything they needed to force the Blues to have to play Wild hockey. The Wild didn't do it, but but that's because they were so fearful of the Blues power play. So the Wild get big. They got Delorier. They got Middleton. We are the Bruisers. We're heavy. We're ready to go into this. We're talking 7th Street Savages, malice to the chalice. And it was the least physical of every series in the playoffs.
Yeah, least hits.
That's what I'm talking about. It was the furthest thing from a physical battle, and that favored the Blues. God. And the Wild had to abandon it because they were so afraid. And some of this is the message.
Now I'm
turn
gonna
the
get
cheek.
upset.
Turn
What are the phases? Now I'm angry.
Sorry. Well, this will help you. And the special teams did matter because
we're going to come back to that.
It's because the Blues power play was so efficient that the Wild, they're nervous. Like if I go out and my elbow rides up a little bit in a physical play and I go to the penalty box and all of a sudden I'm responsible for flipping this series. I'm responsible for giving the Blues the lead in this game. I'm responsible for whatever it might be. It 100% was on the minds of the guys. Like I'm not going to the penalty box because that power play is 50%.
Automatic.
It's 50%. So the Wild eventually are like, okay, we have to stay out of the box. And what did? They played a safer brand of hockey. And slowly but surely, the Blues got them to play Blues hockey and not Wild hockey.
God, you're so right. So even in that game I went to, Game 5, when Kirill scores that second goal, you're absolutely right. I don't even care who it was. Duhaime should have gotten a fight with somebody.
Right.
When there was a 15-minute lull in that game.
And that's where
if you were in the building, you were like, this doesn't feel good.
And that's where you
needed something.
And that's where veteran guys provide their value. That's why management will stick with a 4th line guy that doesn't have the boots of a young guy, because he can recognize the situation. I've been here before. I know what's needed. I know what's possible. I know the risks if I go out and fight him right now. I know this will be okay, or I know not to do it. So these guys that can make decisions and live by that and say, hey, this is what it takes to win. You need to have those guys. And sometimes those guys can't be O'Reilly, Perron, and certain players, right? But you need a guy that says, I am capable. Schenn was that guy for the Blues. I am capable of changing momentum in a series without putting the puck in the back of the net. And Schenn did that. He changed the complexion. He stuck with it. And he was a factor, even though he was not a factor. You know what I mean? And sometimes you need that from your depth. And I think the Wild didn't. And like Delorier was hurt. He was hurt. He's banged up. I don't know if it came out today. He was struggling to walk. He was tough. He was battling through stuff. Across the board, I think some of the bigger guys, the physical guys, were hurt. And Eriksson Ek in Game 6 obviously took the stick to the face, came back with the bubble. Marcus Foligno, Game 82, I do think that affected him some. I think he was hurt in other areas too. So some of the big physical guys that the Wild need weren't capable of being physical. Matt Dumba, another one too, that's great at reading scenario, situation, and providing a boost when the club needs it. His injury came out today. It was a broken rib, punctured lung. And
who was that?
That was Dumba. That's what kept him out down the stretch. And I don't know where he was at when he played. It certainly wasn't anywhere near 100%. But those kind of ones are so rib, puncture, and displaced bone. If that goes through your lung, that could be it. You're toast. You're done. Doctors a lot of times won't even let you play. As a matter of fact, they do not let you play. So he must have been healed to a point where it's like, okay, well, I don't think you're going to stab yourself in the lung and die. But at the same time, it's like you can't go out there and be high-stepping Matt Dumba that we need you to be. And that's nobody's fault. It's just circumstance. It's unfortunate. But these lightning rods, physical lightning rods for the Wild just weren't there when they needed them.
Hartman could have maybe been a Schenn for us. Now I know he plays with the God Almighty, but I mean that maybe could have helped. It's so interesting if we would have played a different brand of hockey,
right?
And instead of the St. Louis Blues brand of hockey. I think that's a great point. Let's talk special teams for a second, because that's the other hot button with fans. How we defend their power play, I'm curious, just because it was so dominant. And then when I would watch our power play, everyone's going crazy. And all I could think of was, we don't have good enough players.
That's a joke, though.
But that's when I was watching the power play, I'm like, I don't think this is literally because someone didn't draw the power play right on the grease board. This group of guys is not executing against their group of guys.
All right, let's just do this exercise then. Let's go Blues power play, Wild power play. Who's the best player on the Blues power play? O'Reilly.
Well, yeah, I think that Robert Thomas is pretty special.
Well,
too.
he was even on their second unit. He wasn't on the top.
So tell me the players on the top unit versus the second unit.
It's Perron, O'Reilly, Tarasenko, Shen, and then it was Torrey Krug.
Okay.
So then it
So
became
O'Reilly
Perunovic.
for sure on the first unit.
O'Reilly. Would you take O'Reilly or Kirill Kaprizov today?
I would take Kirill Kaprizov.
Boom. So you already have the upper hand on the best player on the ice.
That's only one guy.
Okay. So who's the next best? David Perron?
On their unit?
Yes.
Who's the third forward?
It's Braden Shen and Vladimir Tarasenko.
Yeah, Perron's the second best.
So I would say that that's kind of a coin flip. Kevin Fiala and David Perron, kind of a coin flip.
No.
I'll go with Perron too because
Perron.
he kind of gets it a little bit. He does get it. But Perron's he's more Zuccarello. Zuccarello should have been a bigger factor. Zuccarello should hold the puck like Perron does.
Fiala's a straight line shooter too.
Right. So he should be Tarasenko the back door.
Correct.
The parts are now adding up
Perron's,
to be very similar.
Well, hold on. They got the second best. Now let's go third.
Okay, third best, Braden Shen.
Tarasenko
Yeah.
is their third.
Right. Do you want Tarasenko or Fiala?
Tarasenko.
Wow. I take Fiala all day, every day.
Even though he didn't score at all in the playoffs?
He's a better player than Tarasenko right now. He is, 100%. And then you can go to the goal line, Braden Shen.
So you think that we were running the wrong system power play?
No, you're just saying that you can't draw something up and have it be different. I think you can, like player
You're
to
saying
player.
just change it up. I don't know enough about systems to know what they were trying to do. But.
And my point with that exercise was simply, and I think, I was like trying to prove it quickly, it was that the players are very similar and they're both clubs have really skilled, good players on their power play. It just one had it and one didn't. The one thing I will say about the Blues power play that is different than the Wild's power play is the net front guy. It's Eriksson Ek versus Braden Shen. If you look at a lot of the Blues goals, they do not have a screen out in front. A lot of power plays are like, this is a non-negotiable, must-have guy in the eyes of the goaltender. The Blues did it without that guy. And I think the Wild really struggled to adjust. So the Blues were unwilling to, I'll see how well I can articulate this, to pound pucks into the net, like and try to chase rebounds and shoot for screens. They wouldn't do it because they knew they didn't have a screen. So what Shen would do is fall off to the side, and then you'd get the guy's long body sliding, and then he'd wait for openings. And the Wild would collapse into that spot, like the mentality that they're pounding pucks and I have to be there to get any rebound. There's no rebounds. There's nobody there. Your goalie makes $7 million. If somebody shoots, let him save it. But they're all condensed, and then all of a sudden they move the puck up and around, and then they'd have to swell out and then through the seam. Next thing you know, the puck's in the back of your net. But they didn't have that one. That's one thing the Wild do have is they do not have a pass option at the goal line. It's Eriksson Ek is in front of the net all the time. Now, he scores a lot of power play goals right there, which is why a lot of coaches love to have that net front guy. And then not to mention a lot of the shots through screens, like Kirill's power play goals were shots through screens. So it's valuable. But the philosophies were entirely different. One was I don't have a net front guy, and I'm trusting my players to make plays, and they're skilled, they'll execute, and they've got 4, we've got 5. Let's find sticks.
What would you have done differently defending their power play and running ours?
Leave room in the middle of the ice.
So you wouldn't have you would have done the same thing as the Blues. You would have not had a net front guy?
No, you're talking if I ran what? You asked if I ran the kill.
Well, I asked both at the same time. I'm sorry, but so do one at a time.
No, I'm not a coach. So I'm not a coach. But if I ran the kill against it and I recognize they don't have net front, I put the onus on my goaltender. I say, goaltender, you're paid a pretty penny.
You can see the puck,
you
make
see
the
it,
save.
you stop it.
And so defensively, what does that change?
Well, it changes now. You can be a little more aggressive on the outside.
Okay, so you're being aggressive on the kill because you're trusting the goalie. There's nobody screening the goalie, so he should be able to make the save. And then how about our power play? Since our personnel is essentially the same, what would you have done to get us closer to that 50%?
I actually think the issue with our power play is minor details. When guys got the puck, their feet were standing still. They needed to find ways to get the puck while their feet were moving. So when you're passing around and you're stagnant on the outside, the kill is not forced to move, and it's not dangerous. It's not scary. Look at the goals that the Wild had. Feet were moving, going north while the puck hit them on their tape, and it becomes much more dangerous. So you have to be moving. Mm-hmm. And the Wild, I think, at times got to points where they were stagnant and just sitting around, waiting, snapping it around the outside, looking for good opportunities, not like manufacturing them. And the manufacturing comes from moving your feet while you get passes. And for me, that's probably the big difference. I saw the guys standing too much while they're catching the puck.
Do you think that the guys had dirty water and that impacted them?
Well, I do think that if you don't take care of your body and you're not firing on all cylinders, that there's a good chance that, you're not going to be at your best. And that's certainly why I have Aquarius Home Services and Kinetico water systems in my home. I've got the water softener. I've got the K5 system at the faucet. We don't mess around. It's nothing but reverse osmosis in the body. We do have nice, soft, salty water for the shower. It's good for the skin. This time of year, it exfoliates some of the sunburn that I'm going to have in the future. So I love the water, but Aquarius Home Systems, the best thing about it, and if you don't know everybody, they're not just a water company anymore. They've got HVAC guys, electricians, plumbers, whatever you need. If you have something in your utility room and you have a need in your home to keep those home systems running efficiently, call Aquarius Home Services. They are the best when it comes to customer service. They wear the little blue booties. They give you a heads up. They let you know about the tax. It's the kind of company that you're willing to leave the door unlocked and say, just close it on your way out. Nobody has to be there. They're that good. They're that accountable. Leave your critical home systems to the pros. Call Aquarius Home Services.
They've earned the right to be recommended.
See, it's working.
It is. I know that deal. Another thing that I was hearing, so I like to be the voice of the people here. A lot of this, who's Carrill's Robin? Okay. Draisaitl and McDavid, Matthews and Marner, Taine and Kays, all of them.
Taine and Caves. That's a good combo.
Taine and Tays and Kane. It's been a while. But, you need two A's. You can't have an A and a B. You need two straight A's to be a good team. What do you make of that? Is that, you got to build it over time, but it seems like we only have one NHL shop guy.
Yeah, I would say no to that. I do believe that Boldy is an NHL shop guy.
Okay.
So you've got him. I do think that Fiala is possible. And yeah, two grade A studs.
Yeah.
I think Boldy's the guy. Kevin Fiala's probably, if Carrill's 1A, Fiala would be like 1B, right? If you're looking for 1A, Boldy might be the guy. No, he's young. He's 20 years old, man. Just think he's got 5 years to be as good as Carrill. And if you look at the rookie numbers, he was producing at the same rate that Carrill was at 23 or 24 years old. Boldy's going to be a stud.
Yeah, I agree.
He's going to be really good.
That's good.
Yeah, so they're going to have their pieces up front. It's just a matter if they're going to be able to fill it out with depth and the kind of guys that they need on cheap contracts from here on out.
Yeah, we're going to have to get creative. I am going to let you in. So this is when we lost the game as a fan. So what happens when you lose game 6 is people start texting me from like other cities, guys that I don't even text with. Like a guy from Boston, just night. Just it's coming from everywhere. And so that happens. Then somebody sends out the biggest loser cities in America with sports teams. Cleveland's number 1, San Diego's number 2, Minnesota's number 3. I actually went in because I'm thinking, Buffalo doesn't even have a baseball team. San Diego's got nothing anymore. So I went in and checked how many seasons we'd gone because we've had 4 sports basically the whole time and we haven't won a championship since 91. We're third, but spent some time doing that. Seemed useful. I also wondered if this hex that's on Canada with the playoffs, I wonder if we get grouped into that because we're so close to Canada. Like you look at what's going on with Toronto, Edmonton did win and Calgary did win.
What are those called? Yeah.
I wonder if we're like the hockey gods think like we're the southernmost province of Canada.
Like the ocean currents and whatever they are, how it travels from.
So think about
the air current, like the air from Canada comes down and it swoops down and casts its shadow on the Wild and then goes back up over Toronto, but it escapes Detroit and New York and Boston, but then it heads out over the sea.
Hey, you laughed. Last time the Twins won in 91, Canada won the Stanley Cup in 93. And now, I think we got caught in those currents.
Yeah, that's funny.
You're not buying that?
Well, my point is that's what this podcast, that train of thought is exactly what this podcast was created to fight and to contradict. It has nothing to do with any of that stuff. The one thing I'll say is that if you're getting random texts from your buddies that it's
night,
night, loser soda, whatever, it's a good thing. When you're irrelevant, that's when you don't get those texts. If you don't make the playoffs, nobody says that, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's just like, oh, who cares? Like, they're not relevant. That was a story night because the Wild were good, because they got booted second in the West, gone.
So, by the way, the playoff format sucks.
Yeah.
Let's be. I'm not whining, but this is some serious fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
If we were playing Dallas or LA, we just won the first round. My beard is getting long. We're you and I, the podcast is humming. No, we got this stupid ass setup from 10 years ago when they were worried about rivalries or whatever the hell they were doing. So you got Toronto playing Tampa. You got Minnesota playing St. Louis. St. Louis has to go play Colorado. Meanwhile, there's like these American League NHL teams flying around playing each other. That just sucks. It needs to go back to 1-8, 2-7, 3-6, because then the whole culture would have a chance to grow. We build up this regular season. We do everything we're supposed to. We play playoff hockey for 82 games, and then we get, we draw the third place team.
Yeah.
That is just such bullshit.
Yeah, there's no question it sucks. But I'm going to stick with the point that I made early on in the podcast and previous ones, that you've got to beat the best to be the best. So
it doesn't matter when you play.
Whenever you face them, this one stings because we wanted more games.
Yeah, and I do think from a business standpoint, it matters a lot.
Yes.
So if I'm Leopold,
that's why the business side needs to lose their shit. But on the hockey side, you can sit here and say, all right, you know what? I'm not going to say shoulda, coulda, woulda, because I wasn't going to get through the Blues. I faced the Blues, and now it would have taken me some luck to catch a guy that was injured or something. But I was healthy. My club was healthy. We were good. We had everything we needed going to the playoffs, and we couldn't beat the Blues. So there really should be no room for excuse, because in order to win a cup, they're going to have to beat Florida. They're going to have to beat Colorado. Now, it does suck that they faced off against the Blues early on, and we only got 3 home games, and the Wild got behind the 8 ball, and it would have been great for them to get some momentum and face a lesser opponent in Dallas or Nashville, whatever it might be. But yeah, I don't buy that whatsoever, but I will say on the business side, if I was the business side,
I'd be losing my mind.
Yeah, and it's about generating revenue and making some money, and I need more home games. I can double my home games if I have a lesser opponent. This is Bush League.
It affects fan psyche. I mean, they were punished for their success.
The Wild.
Yeah. It was random because the Central did well, but
right.
So if you're trying to build stuff, the whole goal of this season was to take a step forward, at least. Win the cup is always the goal, but at least progress. We're moving in the right direction. Validate everything Billy's been doing.
Yeah.
And if you get a chance to play Dallas or LA, I think you have ability to do that. You're winning. I saw the graphic. We haven't won a first round series in 7 times. Toronto just passed us by losing their 8th in a row. But it's the most of any team besides Maple Leafs. But we should have had a better shot at it.
Yeah. You're right. It does affect the fan psyche. I think it affects the organizational psyche. It affects the pressure. Money. It affects the pressure that the club faces entering the next playoff series. There's another thing where it's like, boo-hoo, sorry for you. And I do think that this played a role in this series, is the Central gets absolutely screwed on the start time. So where you start out west, out east, they get their normal 7 p.m. start, and everything's fine. They have their normal routine. They can practice the next day, whatever it might be. You go to the Central, and because they want to have a doubleheader, it's all East games, 7 start, all West games, 8:50. Well, if you move out to Mountain and Pacific, that goes to 7 o'clock starts or 7:30 starts. It's not that big a deal. But in the Central, it's 8:50. So, I'm broadcasting these games, and I'm getting home at home games, 12:30, 1 o'clock, wired, right? Because I'm having my coffee at 7 o'clock at night, getting ready for the 9 o'clock start. I can't fall asleep at 1 p.m. or 1 a.m. I'm staring at the ceiling at 3, trying to fall asleep, like give me some melatonin, and you're sleeping through the next day, you're dragging. So the Wild didn't practice at all throughout that. And I think they managed the schedule pretty well. And they had to make a choice. Is it advantageous to practice, get these guys out of bed when they go to bed at 3, 4 in the morning for an 11 o'clock skate? So max, they're getting 6 hours of rest. And then I'm going to skate them just so we can run through some power play routes and then jump on the flight and go to St. Louis. It took practice out of the playoffs. Everywhere else you can practice, and rest is a weapon. The Blues did practice, though, and they practiced power play. They did it in the morning skates. They did it the day after games, and the coach said, let's go out. Let's have a couple touches. And I think it showed up in the series. But if I'm the Central, I say this is Bush League. It is like a 9 o'clock start, they're all series long. My guys are gassed, man. They're tired.
They're giving us the flyover state treatment.
Right. And I understand that the Blues had to go through it too, and it's not an excuse, but that's another thing that had to be managed to win this series was rest. Whereas a 7 o'clock start, that's normal. Everybody knows it's okay to practice the next day. 11 o'clock skate, everybody gets their 8 hours of sleep. They get their nutrition. Everything's fine. But when you're going to bed at 4 in the morning, you can't wake up and have a productive practice. So that's why they say scrap the practice. But the Wild needed practice. They needed to be out there having power play touches, working on a couple things. And it just didn't make sense.
Yeah, because you'd look like an asshole as a coach.
850 starts for the Central is screwed. So if I'm ownership or if I'm on the business side, I say 850 starts, screw me. I know you need your TV deals, but then you got to start an East game at 6. Give me 750. Give me a 750 start. Start them early, whatever it is. But I can't be the only ones in a playoff series that sacrifices is the Central. You get screwed, right? And Central to Central. Let's say Central even went out west. Let's say the Wild were a wild card team and they go out and they play LA. They still get half their game, 7 o'clock start, normal routine, decent sleep. But Central to Central, 850, 850, 850, 850.
Yeah, that's no good.
It was no good. So it sucked for them. So if I'm on the business side and I'm complaining about things, which you can, and they will, 850 starts for TV suck. And the other one is, the playoff structure stinks because it would be nice to have 6 home games minimum versus 3. Sorry, man. Now I'm venting.
If you were up at 3 a.m, you could swing by Big Wood Brewery.
I should have had one at 1 a.m. when I got home.
Yeah, I don't think it's open now that I think about it. But you could have bought a 4-pack at a nearby Minnesota liquor store. Maybe some cabin days. I see you're a little sunburned. You've been putting your cabin together.
No, this is the furnace. It's hot down here, and plus the blood's boiling a little bit. That's just...
Yeah, you made me angry too. I wish we played violent. But Big Wood can drown our sorrows right now, Wild fans, as we turn the corner. We look towards the draft and everything else. Big Wood Brewery, come visit them in White Bear Lake. Karts and I will be there. It's summertime. Or pick them up in your local liquor store. Big Wood. Hey, can I ask you, so you were with the team. They lose. What happens? Game 6, you lose. Do people go out, or is it silent on the plane, and if you make any noise, then management might think you don't care, or what happens?
I think there's a little bit of all of those things that goes on. Everybody handles it differently. You watch the handshake line and you're analyzing. You have to be careful not to analyze too much because people react differently to those situations. I do think that it's for me, and what I learned over time is you did what you could do. There's nothing you can do now. You can act mad, you can be sour, but it's not going to change anything that happens tomorrow, the next day, the day after. So you might as well enjoy your company with the guys that you have in the room with you while you can, because tomorrow is no longer the same group. It will look different. There will be changes. So you have this small window again to try to find something positive. So you hang out, you have fun, and you tell stories and whatever it is. And I don't know what the guys did, but I had a similar experience where the TV crews, it's the last time we'll be together. So it was 8:50 start. We get back to the hotel at 12:30. We're on the phone searching for spots to go, and we find a bar, Hair of the Dog, that's open till 3 a.m. Quick jump out of the suit into some street clothes, run down to the bar, and you're there at 1:30. You drink as fast as you can.
Yeah, it's
right at 1:30 in the morning. It sounds like a terrible idea.
It doesn't
when you're stone cold sober, but it was one of those spots where this is our last opportunity, to be in this group with this team or following the season's over. This is legit the nightcap. And it's not the nightcap on the day, it's the season. All of the work you've done, all of the sacrifice you've put in. This is the nightcap. Let's go get it in. And we snuck it in. I was up. We went back to the hotel around 3. I still wasn't ready for bed yet. So I was walking around with a bottle of wine, knocking on doors, seeing who was awake till the bottle was gone. And 4 or 5 in the morning came around. But yeah, that's how it was for me. I assume that's how it was when I was a player too. And
that story made me feel better, because that's the kind of stuff that builds championships. It really is. Walking around with the bottle of wine because you still want to talk to somebody because you don't, tomorrow's not guaranteed. I don't know. I think that's great. I'm glad that happened. I hope this team did some of that too, because they really did give us a great year. It was different. It was special. I think the hardest part about it was that the postseason wasn't special. I think that's where it hurt even more. But maybe it was tactical, like you suggest. Maybe we should have dictated a style of play. It was funny when we looked at the matchup at the beginning, we thought the teams were similar, because I think most people remember this Blues team that was tough. It was like the LA Kings of the West. Or I guess they're in the West too, but there was no Pims on that team. We saw it before we played them. No. I mean, this is not a team this is no violence. And man, we really did play their style.
Speaking of violence, we've had to jam these in. There was some violent weather while we were in St. Louis. So we take off at 3, then tornado warnings come through the cities, and boom, my car is parked outside at the airport. Hail damage, dents all over it.
Really?
Yeah. Stinks. It stunk.
Who did you call?
You know who I would call in that spot?
Well, you really
I would have called before that, and I'm happy that I did call, is Andy Hedlund, thehockeyagent.com.
Okay.
State Farm insurance guy. Listen, he understands that you have to travel and you got to park your car outside. You might have to call him 2 or 3 days after the storm, but he'll still take care of you. And whether you get a letter in the mail that says your rates have gone up from your current guy, or you really love your new vehicle and you don't want hail damage to wreck it, so you want to lower that deductible and just make sure that, if something bad happens, that it'll be taken care of. Maybe the roof on your home, and you're like, hey, this isn't worth it. I just got a new roof. Let's make sure it's fully insured. Everything looks good. Andy Hedlund, thehockeyagent.com. Give him a call. He'll take care of you. 763-537-4949. He'll cover you like the Blues covered the Wild. Too soon?
Yeah. Hey, by the way, this Maverick screening.
Yeah.
This movie looks unbelievable.
Well, now that I sent you that tweet, all I get is, it's like one of those situations where if you say like Maverick movie, your phone hits you with 1,000 ads for it.
It's going to be great. They say it's better than the original Top Gun.
But I sent you the one clip of it.
Yeah.
And now I can't open my phone without seeing an ad for the Maverick.
Why is that bad?
No, it's not bad, but now I'm really excited to see it, and I can't wait to see it with 10 of my friends.
I'm going to send you something. So let's pick the date on that. Maybe we have some listeners join us, but it opens.
Can we rent a screen and have it at Bigwood? Let's have an outdoor preview at Bigwood.
There's no way they're going to give us the film for Maverick to play where we want.
I'll tell them I'm a former Maverick. Horns up.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work. But we can get like a 2:00 private screening at the White Bear Theater. So that's got to happen. It opens the 24th, so it might even be before we record again. I think what we'll probably do is give you a little playoff banter, head in towards the draft. We certainly won't be going every game like we were, but
yeah, hit us with a comment if you're listening now on Twitter or something, that if you want more during the playoffs, just our analysis of the series or once a week. More than happy to do some more down the stretch here. Just don't know what it looks like. So if you're listening and you want more, yeah, give us the thumbs up and we'll be here for it.
So let's do final thoughts. Put the season to bed. I don't know. It's the season I became a Wild fan for real. I always had a North Star shaped hole in my heart, and I never quite cared enough about the Wild. They always felt like a World League of American football team, like an expansion franchise. But with Kirill coming, Billy G making some big changes, the way the team kind of liked each other, it was wonderful. Making the playoff, I guess, failure all the much more worse. But I don't know. I'm not going to throw the baby with the bathwater.
Have you ever traveled on a holiday or been alone in that spot and you just have a random person say, man, just come over, and it feels weird and you don't really know how to react, and then you're like, whatever, I got nothing else to do, I'll go over. And then you realize like how valuable that is to be inclusive and to just be a part of something.
Yeah.
That was this club. They extended the hand and they're like, you know what? We're open. Everybody come on in. This is a family. We love each other. You're good. We're secure in ourselves. Come on in. Be a part of it. And I think a lot of Wild fans were, and I don't think that I was any different from that. But my experience in those situations is that relationship now lasts a little longer and it's a little stronger because you understand that person, they took care of you, they went out of their way. That's how the club is now, I think. And the culture has changed. And we say it's okay to buy in, it's okay to talk about winning. I don't think that just because they lost the series that all that stuff is out the door. I don't think culture is swept under the rug. So it's still a good inclusive spot and a place where they'll have fun, energetic hockey, teams that like each other, teams that are endearing and draw you in.
Yeah. We'll just have a few new guys with bottles of wine walking down the hotel corridor. We have to open the door for them too.
And there'll be more beautiful babies. And I think that's going to be the hard part.
Lambo. We got a defenseman with the name Lambo.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, there will be more beautiful babies, and it'll be hard to say goodbye to some of the guys that were on this club. But undoubtedly this year, there will be some that you say sayonara to, whether that's Flower. I mean, I don't know if everybody tracked this, the Talbot stuff and how that went after the season with his wife and what she posted, and was there some subliminal messaging there, how that relationship goes. Kevin Fiala and who knows down there, Delorier, fourth line. There's some holes around. So the team's going to look different. But you got to have faith that the beautiful babies are going to step in and deliver.
We're here.
Till it's here.